Today we're talking about FERPA advising and enrollment. And so many of us, actually all of us on the chat are parents ourselves. And so some of us have had students go through the process. And so really being able to talk, parent to parent, but really just giving some insight and letting you know that we're here to be a part of the journey with you. We're excited to welcome you to the Shocker family. So we're going to start off. My name is Alicia Newell, and I serve as the Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs. Joining us also is Ms. Kimberly Sandlin, the Director of the Office of Student Success. My partner in crime, you may have seen us together at the new parent orientation. Miss Gina Crabtree, she serves as the registrar for the university. She is guru, all things FERPA, lock and key. She keeps us going. And then Lisa Hansen, who is the director of our first year advising and OneStop services on campus. And so we're excited to have you joining us today. And we're going to kick off with Gina Crabtree as she gets us started in talking about FERPA.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to Shocker Nation. They let me go first because FERPA is so exciting, you see. So really just wanted to give a few comments with regard to what FERPA is and ultimately how parents can and can't access information on their students' academic record so that coming into Wichita State this fall with your new student, you'll be really clear on how things are going. So FERPA stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's essentially the law that governs how and who can access students' records. And mainly, the FERPA law says that students, college students, whether they're over the age of 18 or not, if a student is enrolled in an institution of higher learning, FERPA applies to them, and the rights to their educational records belong to them. So they have certain rights to, that the law helps to determine who can see their academic record. And there are a lot of exceptions and rules related to FERPA and it's kind of that legalese stuff. So super exciting to read. If you're interested in reading more detail about it after we're done today and after we do some Q&A, you can find more at wichita.edu/FERPA. But ultimately, FERPA says that students have the right to see and view and inspect their record, which we really allow students to do through electronic means these days. They have the right within certain limitations to control who has access to the record, and then they have the right to ask for an amendment to the record or correction if they think something is wrong. So how does that then intersect with parents and really third parties? The law says that we as an institution cannot provide information about a student's education record with anyone but the student, except for under certain conditions, and we cannot provide information to a third party without a student's express written consent. And so I always say to parents, which it's much easier to say when I'm face to face with you, yes, my friends, we as parents are now third parties. So as Alicia mentioned, I have a daughter who finished her college career with a PhD last May. So I've gone through this process, and I really want to say to you as parents that the easiest and best way to get information about your student's academic record is from your student. And there are ways that we can help with that process. Another website I would toss out to you is wichita.edu/proxy. This is a place where students can essentially identify a parent or a spouse or any other person as a proxy. And what that means is that particular individual will be able to set up a username and a password of their own for a certain website where they can view records that the student has given them permission to view. So the information about how students set up a proxy and the information about how proxies then access records can be found at that wichita.edu/proxy. In general, I would say to you that most or all education records are split into two buckets. One is called directory information and one is non-directory information. So directory information is the more basic kinds of things, the student's name and their major, whether or not they're enrolled, things that we can give out to a third party without the student's consent. So if someone contacted our office to find out if a student was enrolled, we could answer that question without the student's consent in advance. Everything else is non-directory information, students' grades and their schedule and things along those lines. And that is the information, again, that we cannot provide to a third party without a student's express written consent. Students have the authority to fill out a form with the registrar's office that puts a FERPA block essentially on their record, which tells us, don't tell anybody anything about me, including directory information. So if a student wants to do that, they can fill out that form with the registrar's office. So we, again, take really special care to ensure that we're following the law, that we're protecting students' rights. We want to help parents and families, and so we start with this process and sharing information about what we are bound by the law to do and not to do, and ways that, again, students can set up proxies or otherwise authorize an individual to have access to their record. And the registrar's office is here to help you with those things. Another thing that I often tell parents is it's really not appropriate for us as parents to contact a faculty member and say, how's my daughter doing in your class? You should hear, if you made such a call from the faculty member, that they can't speak to anyone but the student about the student's performance in their class. Now, you might say, well, my student set me up as a proxy, so I have authorization. But the faculty member's conversation is not part of a student's academic record, so they are not bound to discuss the student's performance with you, even if you were set up as a proxy and have that authorization. So again, I come back to talk with your student, make plans in advance for how the student is going to provide you with information about their record. Often as parents, we want to see how you did this semester, what grades are. Students have the ability to print a grade report. And again, students can set you up as a proxy. So 24/7, you could log in and see the kinds of information that the student has authorized you to see. And the student is able to say, I want my parent or my proxy to see my schedule, but not my grades. So they have very specific control over the kinds of records that the proxy system is gains access to, and how each person that they set up as a proxy can view what information they can view. So those are the basics about FERPA that I wanted to cover. I don't know if we are doing questions, Kim, Alicia, or are we doing questions at the end?
We can do them now or at the end, either one. I think, we haven't talked that much at the parent orientation. We haven't gone too deep into FERPA. And so we've kind of just scratched the surface saying, we're checking on Parent View for those of you who are 259 parents. We log into Parent View and did you turn this in? What's missing? Why is this missing? And in relation to really transitioning from waking them up and feeding them and doing all of that to now, okay, we got to have the conversations. And I think that's what you brought up, which is really good. We've got to start those conversations now with the students and, set the expectation of, I'm not going to be in your business, but I pay the bills. And so those are separate processes and how to do all of that. And that's a topic. Paying bills is next month's topic, or the next time. And so, what does that look like for your student? Your expectation is, my expectation is that you are passing your classes. Maybe you have a certain GPA, requirement. Parents, we're on a plus minus grading scale. So that means something different, and so those conversations are really critical to have with your student. Open communication. Some students, are, hard lines to their parents all the time, right? And others are like, peace, I'm in college. So it just kind of depends on the relationship and making sure that you're setting those expectations clearly. I don't know, Alicia, if you would add anything to that, or really that's kind of your spiel I stole from you. So anything you'd add?
No, you're great. There was a question that came in about any exceptions in regards to the health or safety of students. And so Gina, do you want to address that?
Sure. So again, FERPA says that we can't provide information to a third party without the student's express written consent. And there are several exceptions to that. One exception is directory information that we've talked about. And another exception is in the health and safety emergencies. There are definitely applications in the law that allow us as an institution to reach out to a parent or, again, the appropriate individual in cases where a student's health and safety or campus health and safety, any of those kinds of issues are at play. Also, another exception is that if a student is found in violation of the code of conduct related to alcohol and drug use on campus, then there is an exception there. And so it doesn't necessarily, I often say, it doesn't mean that every time someone gets in trouble or is found with a beer can on campus, not that that ever happens, right, guys, but that someone's going to call their mom. But I think that that is part of the law in case there are individuals, whether it be in housing or other through student affairs, where maybe there's a concern because someone has been found in violation of that with regard to drug or alcohol abuse. So those things like that are part of the law to really allow the institution to work with families, but also, again, to make sure that we're emphasizing the fact that the students are adults, as Kim said, and they should be able to have control over who sees their record. And often parents do have that carrot or stick, depending on your point of view, because they're paying the bills. So those, again, early conversations about how are we going to do this and set me up as a proxy or provide me with the grades or whatever it might be, those are really important on the front end.
Yeah. And so a question did come up, Gina, about does FERPA also protect information on how students' tuition is being paid?
So FERPA applies to all education records. So the financials are education records as well. As Kim said, I think there's a future topic of payment. Now, one thing that's good to be clear on is that the proxy system really only allows for information to be seen kind of the academic record, and then there's some financial aid areas of the proxy system. The student accounts, they use TouchNet, which is a third-party vendor, and I don't want to get into too much of that because that's not my expertise, but they have a way for students to establish a guest user account for parents for payment through that. So yes, all of that is covered by FERPA, but again, if the student sets those things up, grant that access, then we're fine, because the student owns the record, and the student can tell anybody anything they want about their records. It's the institution that's making sure that we're following the rules and the laws to protect their privacy and their rights under the law.
Great. Thank you. We're excited to have so many great questions come in at any time. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop it in the live comment section, and we will try to get those addressed as quickly as possible.
I would add in the proxy that Gina is referring to is, the educational records FERPA part. If you want to kind of work ahead, because we know a lot of folks joining us on these types of calls and chats like to work ahead and are very organized. So if you want to work ahead and you don't want to wait for the next parent chat, the piece that connects to the tuition piece and the billing piece is handled through the student account suite. So if they go, it's all through the portal, and so your students will log on to the portal and they look at the My Finances tab, and that process and what that piece is called is an authorized user. And so those are the words you're looking for in that process, is authorized user. And we do have some screenshots on how you go about doing that piece of it, as far as making payments in our guidebook that we've put on the website at the orientation site. So if you go to wichita.edu/orientation, I'm not exactly sure how to tell you to navigate that. So I'm going to do that on my other screen here, and I'll put it in the chat and kind of get you to those screenshots if you're interested in that being the authorized user in the student account suite for tuition purposes. So the proxies for FERPA, the authorized user is for the payment part of it. So hopefully that's helpful.
The other thing, Kim, I would just say before we move to the next part, and that is, I really encourage parents to not know your student's MyWSU ID and password. If you do have your student change their password, the only person that should know that combination of ID and password should be the student. That's for everyone protection. So really just encourage students to be on top of that. And again, to utilize these other opportunities to give parents access and get the information that they need without this parent logging in as if they were the student with the MyWSU ID and password. That, again, potentially creates a security risk that just encourage folks to not go there.
Yeah, I would also say, yeah, the students are getting this information in their online orientation. So they didn't cover this most likely in the virtual orientation sessions, but we do get a lot of parents asking, is my student getting this information or what? So this is part of module 1 of orientation. So if your student has completed a virtual orientation, they've been sent the link. If they just participated yesterday, it's probably coming today or tomorrow, but they'll get that link to begin those online orientation modules, and this information is included in that module 1. So just a clarification, yes, your students will get this information as well, but we want to provide it to you. So I'm gonna look for those websites.
All right, so thanks, Gina, again. If there's other questions that come up later that you think of, don't hesitate to drop those in the chat. Gina's going to hang on with us until the end, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce Ms. Lisa Hansen, who serves as our Director of First Year Advising and OneStop Services, to share more information about your students' enrollment process and what that schedule should look like and timelines and all of that great stuff. So take it away, Lisa.
Okay, hello everybody. As Alicia has said, I'm going to talk a little bit about our first year advising process, and really want to focus that I am going to talk just about first year advising for the new freshman students. So if we have any transfer parents on that have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and we will address those as we can. So the way that our first year advising process takes place is that it is done through OneStop Student Services. All in one location. We have 7 different colleges on our campus and many different options for advising for students. But in the first year, we really, and I apologize, I'm very animated, so I'm talking with my hands the whole time. But we try to really have everything in one spot for students in that first year. So, and not only in one spot, but we like to cover a lot of areas and provide a really solid base and foundation for advising in that first year for students. So at OneStop, we talk, yes, about their academic advising and their degree programs. We talk about degree requirements. We set up an educational student education plan with them. So we do that, but we also talk about financial aid. We want to make sure that they understand their financial aid requirements and how to take care of all of those. We have been working with students to make sure that they're enrolled if they have deadlines and things like that right now. We also talking about student accounts. We can counsel students on how to set up payment plans if they want to do that, and we do that with them. So we don't just say, oh, go talk to the student accounts office. We're actually sitting with them and taking care of those things that they need to do right now, probably a little bit more over Zoom and different things, or over the phone with students. But we really want to make sure that we make ourselves available for students, again, to create that solid base and foundation for them in their time at Wichita State. So to kind of jump right into the enrollment process. So many students, the way that they did this and they started the enrollment process was when they RSVP'd for orientation. So many of you may have been around when your student RSVP'd for orientation and they got sent through an additional set of questions that talked about things like, are you wanting to be a full-time student? What's your major? What classes did you like in high school? We ask the super important questions like, are you a morning person, or when do you want to take classes in the morning? And what does that mean? Does that mean early in the morning? We have 2 definitions of morning because we know that that might be different for some students. But we ask a lot of different questions. We ask them about, like I said before, what classes they liked taking in high school, and maybe even some that they didn't really like taking. Some things for all students, as if they want to be, as questions like, do they want to be involved with music at Wichita State? Because you don't necessarily have to be a music major to be involved with one of our music programs. So all kinds of different questions. And then what happens is those questions go to our first year advising staff. We have 7 first year advisors that split up mostly by major or college. And so those first year advisors get that information from your students. They take the answers to the questions along with the degree requirements for the program they're in, and they work to create a schedule for your students. So we try to really allow students the freedom to also ask questions along the way. And in the questionnaire itself, they can say, I want to meet with a first year advisor or speak with a first year advisor before they build my schedule. We allow that. And then really along the way, any questions they have, they always can reach out to their advisor for any updates or anything like that. So the advisor works to build the schedule. Once the schedule is submitted, I should say first, they work to build the schedule. To build that schedule, there may be some pieces of information that we need, including transcripts or test scores. We work really hard to be able to try and take unofficial versions of those in order to just build the schedule, but we're always going to require and ask for you to send in the official documents as well. But we try to be as accommodating as possible to get everything taken care of. So we build the schedule, then we send out an email notification that tells the student to go out and check in their MyWSU portal in order. And there's a little box on there in the My Classes tab for them to be able to view their schedule. So they click a link, they can look at the schedule, and there's some radio button options for them to be able to see. And it says, yes, I like my schedule, sounds good, or I still have some questions. And if they have questions, that's completely fine. We do ask that you type in the questions in the little box so we know what we need to answer for you. And so we go ahead and take care of that. Any questions that still need to be answered, we can go back and forth as many times as needed to make sure that we get the schedule that's really right for your student. And then they complete some orientation requirements, as Kim had talked about within the virtual sessions that many of you guys may have already attended, or your student has attended. My staff is there with them. I'm here covering the office while all of them are doing all of their the virtual orientation programs. And then we have supplied some information for those modules that students will complete as well. You may recognize my voice if your student has done any of the modules. I tried to record some videos and tutorials for students to make sure that they have an idea of what to do within their MyWSU portal. But then we're here all along the way in their first year. So we see them or talk to them in that scheduling process. We meet with every student before they schedule their spring courses. And then after they schedule those spring courses in about like February, March timeframe of next year, we're going to help them transition to their college advisors. And so from that point, the college advisors will work with the students on their degree requirements and completing all of those for up to graduation. And we are still here because we are OneStop to help students and talk about everything from financial aid to student accounts, records and registration, and even if they're interested in admission for a grad program. So we can answer a lot of different places. That was a whole concept of OneStop when we first started. We actually started OneStop back in 2014 and started first year advising in 2017. So we were around for a few years before that as really a place where students can go one spot to get a lot of questions answered in a lot of variety of ways. So that's a very quick overview of the enrollment and advising process. So I'm happy to answer any questions or take questions.
Yeah, so great, Lisa. Thank you. We have a series of questions that have flooded in. And so this seems to be like a great hot topic. And so first, can you talk a little bit about the difference between a one-stop advisor and their college advisor?
Yeah, so I very briefly mentioned that just at the end. So their one-stop or first year advisor is the person that they talk to in their first year of advising at Wichita State. Many of you guys, if you went on a campus visit, you would have talked to the college advisor when you came for a campus visit, or maybe you saw them at a program at one time. And we love our college advisors. What we work is to create a team that the first year advisor does help a student in the first year that they're here at WSU, again, with academics, but also financial aid and student accounts and kind of all those connection pieces. And so we consult the college advisors a lot, but they are both academic advisors. When talking, both know all the requirements for degree programs and how to really, maintain that degree. But we really focus in the first year on those extra pieces as well. And so then as they transition to the college advisor, that's really when they get deep into the academic pieces of their programs.
Great. What measures are being taken to keep students safe from COVID-19 during advising appointments?
That is a great question. Just like I said is at the beginning when we're talking about just a little bit is that we want to see the student, we can walk them through how to do things. But like I said, right now that's happening on Zoom. So really the biggest thing to know right now about all academic advising on campus is that it's all remote right now. So like I said before, I am in the office. So we are here to help students as people might walk in and have just some general questions, but all appointments that happen right now are happening in a virtual means, whether that is on Zoom, we use Microsoft Teams sometimes with students, phone appointments, email, whatever we can do to connect, because we definitely don't want to lose the connection, but all appointments do happen virtually right now. In the office, if you do happen to walk in, we do require masks. We have some masks here if you don't have a mask when you come onto campus. So we're definitely taking precautions, very many cleaning measures every day. We're wiping everything down and making sure everything's safe. But yes, all advising appointments are happening virtual right now.
Great. And so what should a student expect their first semester schedule to look like? How many hours should they be in?
That's a great question. So, and I'm going to answer that with, it's totally varied. We really love, and that's one of been the biggest challenges and the biggest rewarding pieces of doing all of this is because we really are tailoring what students say in their questionnaire, what their degree requirements are, how many transfer hours. We see so many students with so many transfer hours, which is great that you're getting a head start to it, but sometimes that might make your schedule look a lot different than your friends who didn't have any transfer hours coming in. And sometimes we try to accommodate things that students just have a special request because you might want to take a class with your friend, but that might not be possible. It really just depends on the situation. Typically, what we want to see a student get into are those core classes or foundation classes that we talk about. That's English 101, English 102, math, and public speaking. So even though that's a dreaded one, I can't say that I was a communications major when I was in college. So I took 2 public speaking classes, but those are the ones that we really want to do when we set the foundation. And I got to say that that's really important because you need to take English. I know there's some students that are like, I really just don't want to do it, or I don't want to do public speaking, but you really need to set that foundation because in an English course, you're going to learn how to write papers for all the other courses that you have. In a math class, that's going to be really important for a lot of different foundational pieces, and get it out of the way. I was not a math person. Like I said, I like to talk. I don't necessarily like to compute. But we want to make sure that we get them on the right path because we know you want to get out of the way the courses that aren't so fun to get deep into the courses you're really interested in. And then public speaking, of course, that's really going to benefit you as you have to give presentations in a lot of classes. So we want you to have those key foundational pieces before you move forward.
Should students expect COVID-19?
I did forget one piece of that, and Kim may have stopped me in that step. So typically for credit hours, what you're going to see though is 12 credit hours is how many you need to be full-time. So a lot of times for financial aid purposes, we need to get you in at least 12 hours. But typically what we really want to see students enroll in is 15 credit hours, at least 30 in an academic year. So a lot of times you may see 15 credit hours, and that's because typically we might switch it between 15 and 15 between fall and spring. Sometimes if you've taken some transfer work before you came to Wichita State, we might be able to kind of work in and allow some of that transfer work to count for some requirements that we might need to meet with financial aid or things like that. So if you have any questions, please ask your advisor, but know that the minimum we want to see you in is 12 to be full-time. And typically you might see as many as 15. If you're a music major, you might even have more than 15 credit hours. And I say that as a former music major as well. So,
and I just wanted to add to this point, because we don't know what every single class delivery looks like, right? So it's either online, and if it's online, that means it's all online. It is your student works independent from any schedule as long as they're meeting the due dates in the timeline set by the instructor, right? But in the hybrid model, it's really important that if your schedule is Monday and Wednesday, and I have a 9:30 class, your student should be holding that time on Monday and Wednesday, 9:30 to, what would that be? 9:30 to 10:15, right? I think, or if it's a 2-day-a-week class. They need to hold that in their schedule, because it's possible that they're going to have what's called a synchronous time where they have to be in Zoom as a class with the professor, just because, there's a lot of terminology to understand. In person doesn't necessarily mean in person. It's hybrid, it's a combination. Sometimes you're in the classroom, you may never be in the classroom, you might only be in the classroom 3 times or once a week, or it just depends from class to class, which is a part of what's going to make the fall a little bit challenging and a little less traditional, right? So, but I think you'll find this on any college campus across the US. We're all, looking at how we're delivering classes. And so we're going to do that, as efficiently and effectively as possible, and have provided a lot of training for our faculty to make sure that it's quality online and in-person content. So I just want to make that point, because we work with a lot of students on time management. So a lot of the success coaches come into play, and helping students figure out how to prioritize all of that and how to manage that time. So if it's an in-person class, it's really a hybrid class, but your students shouldn't be working on Monday mornings if they have a class. And yes, it might be hybrid and some of it may be online, but they may still need to show up somewhere virtually or otherwise at 9:30 a.m. on Mondays, right? So we want to make sure that that's clear, and that students really hold that class time in their schedule, no matter what the course delivery is. So sorry, I just wanted to go off on that tangent for a minute. So I'll turn it back over to the questions.
No, it's very important.
Yeah. One thing that I do want to also share is that as your student is preparing to come to campus, there is a very important website that they can look at once their schedule has been confirmed, and that's wichita.edu/fall 2020. Do you want to talk about that website, Lisa?
Yeah, that's a really important website that we're really trying to push out for students right now. And just like Kim said, so the online or the delivery model of courses for the fall 2020 semester is really going to be possibly online, but also most likely in a majority of the classes are going to be what we call hybrid classes. And so that definition of hybrid, though, could be very different for each instructor. So what the university has been doing is really encouraging faculty to go out to this website, fall 2020, so wichita.edu/fall 2020, just like Alicia said, and bounce back and forth and make sure, but we want you to see that website because it's really important. So if you pull up your classes that you are currently enrolled in, you can see the delivery method for the course, and then some notes from the instructor. And when I say notes from the instructor, these are great notes that talk about how they will be, like the homework model that they're going to be using. I've seen some put in there, like, I'm going to expect online assignments, but we're going to have Zoom instruction, those types of things. So they're getting really good details with that website. And so, like I said, so there's one other thing I want to say, though, is that not all classes are on there. We're working really hard as a university, especially, right? I have my own championing to do because I'm working for those and trying to push, hey, can we just make sure that all of the at least 100, 200 level classes are put in there? Because I selfishly know that's where all my students likely are going to have classes. And so, yeah, and we say my students. So just so you parents all know, your kids are thought of as our kids in this process. We want to see them succeed. We want to make sure things get taken care of for them. So I want all the faculty to put in classes that are going to be the ones that they're going to see. So we definitely just want to make sure that you know that they might not be there, but keep checking back because they could be there tomorrow. It just depends. But we are really trying to get as many of those in within this month really as possible.
All right. So a question, should students expect COVID-19 to affect their course schedule or the timeline to complete their degree?
So Kim and I kind of talked about this right now is really just the course schedule. It could affect the course schedule only because the classes may be offered in a different type of method than they might have originally planned. I should say it in that way. The timeline for completion of their degree, likely at this point, we're not going to see that many changes. They're doing a great job of being able to still offer classes. Really, it's just the delivery method that might be. Now, we're very knowledgeable that that delivery method may not be the preferred delivery method for some students. And we definitely want to know, or want everyone to know, that we've got a lot of resources out there to really help, whether it's Kim's team in student success, and we're working with success coaches along with first year advisors to make sure that students have connections to resources and things like that. So those types of things definitely could. If you choose not to take a course because of the delivery method, that could make a difference. But in general, it's not that we're not going to be offering courses necessarily in that time frame.
I would also add just a couple of examples that I've seen. Some departments in their course sequencing have maybe flipped and said, okay, instead of offering course A in the summer and course B in the fall, we're going to just flip them because the content may not build on each other for these courses. So we're going to flip this. Works better online. We know summer's online. We're going to flip this to the summer, and then they're going to take, so it'll be course B before course A. And so I think the faculty I know the faculty and I know the department chairs are really in tune to making sure that they're thinking through this. We've had a lot of planning on campus happening in regard to all of this and all of these changes. And there have been a number of task forces that have been meeting since really started in March, and then kind of, actually started 2 weeks before we went fully remote in the spring. And so there's the continual meeting and the discussion about how are we going to not delay graduation for our students? How are we going to make sure that the content that we are going to be providing as an institution is that quality content, which we do well. Our online learning area is top notch. And I know I'm biased and I'm going to say that about Wichita State, but in a lot of the discussions that our folks have been in with other institutions in the state and the region across the country, I'm really proud of what we have done to predict some of these changes and some of these challenges, and make the decision early about fall, and make the decision about, how we're going to protect health and safety of our faculty, staff, and students, and all of that. So, I think rest assured that these discussions are happening. Now, of course, there's a lot of faculty out there and there's a lot of staff out there. And so we're doing everything that we can to really be upfront in communication. The other website I wanted to make sure that was up somewhere is the COVID-19 website. So if you have specific questions about how COVID is impacting, it's right there on the screen, wichita.edu/COVID-19 news. And this is a massive list of frequently asked questions. And just by the sheer number of questions, we're getting a lot of questions really frequently. So we kind of reorganize those. And as the summer questions, we put those at the bottom. And now we're talking about fall, and that changes to what, to reflect the topics of the time, right? So that is consistently updated. And that, I think, is a really great indication of what we have done and what we are continuing to do in relation specifically to any COVID-19 questions. So thanks for putting that on the screen. That's another important one for you all to follow.
Another question that came in, Lisa, is when should my student declare their major? And so I know that as, coming into college myself, I was undecided. And I think I changed my major probably 8 times. My parents were like, are you ever going to graduate? You need to figure out with your, what are you going to do with your life? And so what's that typical time frame look like? And is there any implications on students who are undeclared?
Yeah, it's a great question. I will say, again, that's a varied, I think, personal experience when you have when you get to the point that you have the major that you're going to graduate with, that's different than even declaring a major sometimes. That's my personal experience. I changed my undergrad 5 times in the time that I was a student. But that's okay. That's totally fine. But when we talk about requirements, so when we say should declare a major, again, we want students to explore. That's the beauty of general education. I mean, I'm going to take a soapbox here for general education because my life was changed when I came to college. I had no idea you could major in communication and I could literally get a degree in how to talk to people. It opened my eyes to some amazing things. And that was really because of gen ed. And another, like, sociology was an incredible interest area of mine that I didn't even realize that when I was in high school. And so being able to take those gen ed courses and really explore is a great benefit. So I'm going to get outside of that soapbox and talk about really, though, the necessity is that a student needs to have a major declared by 48 credit hours for financial aid purposes. Now, I'm going to be really honest and say that when they declare the major, they need to have a declared major. So we can't see an undecided major. But the reality is if in 2 semesters that decision or decided major changes, that's okay. They're not going to be at risk of not being able to get, that aid at that point. But at 48 credit hours, we don't want to see an undecided major. So that's just the biggest thing. But truthfully, I'm saying this as a parent. I've got 4 kids. Now, granted, I don't have any that are of college age yet, but I want to encourage parents to let your child explore. Their minds are going to change. Their eyes are going to be opened to some amazing things, some amazing just areas of study and interest areas when they get to college, and allow that, because it's the best thing. I can't even say I came in as a music major and I absolutely love to sing and I still sing to this day, but I quickly realized that I didn't want to know how to write it. And I didn't care about how the history of it either. I just wanted to sing it. And so I then for a while thought I wanted to do dental hygiene because I like going to the dentist. That didn't make any sense because I didn't want to touch other people's teeth. But again, having my eyes opened, sorry, my camera adjusted, but having my eyes open to the different possibilities out there and having parents that were like, okay, but just like Alicia said, you better get this done eventually. It did take me 5 years to graduate in my undergrad. So that's part of it. If they change majors and things like that, it might take them longer to graduate, but we want to encourage exploration. And things like that for students as well.
I wanted to add an orientation story. A few years ago, and this was in person, a young man came to orientation and we had him assigned to engineering, and that was his intended major, and it was all good to go and awesome. And at the end of day 1, he came to us and said, I think I want to change my major and I want to major in fine arts. And so we said, okay, we can help you with that process. You got to major in what you believe, you want to major in and where your passion is. And the next day, at that point, they met with advisors at orientation. This is quite a few years ago, actually now. And so he showed up on day 2. He went to his advising appointment that had been switched for him over in fine arts. And his family member went to the appointment that was set up for him in engineering because the 2 had not had a discussion about his interest in changing his major. And the family member called our office and said, I'm sorry, where's my son? He hasn't shown up. And we said, oh, that's because he has changed his major and we have set him up with, and the family member was not happy. And so, we helped them kind of connect, and then they had their conversation. And so it's really important, whether it's FERPA that we've been talking about, or whether that's communication expectations, even just the major, it's really important to have those discussions and support your students. Changing a more technical major to another more technical major is probably going to add a little bit of time onto their degree plan, and it may take them a little bit longer to make it through, but it's really important for their process to be able to have the support and the flexibility in someone helping them through that. So we're going to help them through that. If the student says, I'm not aerospace engineering, I'm now tuba performance. Awesome. Let's get you over to fine arts and let's make it happen. Right. And so we will work students through that process. Now we're also going to ask them, well, that's an interesting switch. So tell me about why you're thinking about tuba performance, So, don't take that as we're just going to do what the student wants. We're going to ask those questions along the way. And so just wanted to make sure that was kind of out there. Again, a push to have those conversations early and often with your student. It's really important that they have your support in that process as well.
Great insight. Thanks, Kim. I think, the other thing is, giving students the opportunity to explore through hands-on experience. And this is something that Wichita State does a phenomenal job with, is providing those applied learning opportunities for students to really get in there and get their hands dirty to see what does it look like to be, I remember doing an internship with a law firm, and I was like, I want to be a lawyer. And it was long hours, it was a lot of research, and it was all this other stuff that I never really knew coincided with the legal aspect of things. And for me, the number one thing that I learned in college was about values and what feeds my soul and what is it that I'm passionate about. And that was family. And so I'm thinking, how can I be a lawyer and that take so much time away from my family, right? And so, going through the process and actually seeing what a day-to-day experience is, and then seeing how does that align with my values, my morals and beliefs, which is a lot of what we do in college, is really trying to help students have that holistic approach and development of, you by the time you graduate from Wichita State at the end of your 4 to 5 years, you're stepping into this whole other session of who you are and really developing the person you want to become. And with luck, your purpose and your passions, they're all kind of intermingling then at that point. And so I know during the advising process that something that is often discussed is opportunities for students to engage in applied learning, looking at co-ops and internships. And, once a student has 24 credit hours of being able to get out and get some of those experiences. And so there's a lot of conversations that are being had during advising, and really not just the academic, but how are we preparing them for the real world and giving them those experiences and opportunities. And so I think our advising offices and advisors across the board, whether it's professional advisors, if it's career advisors, if it's success coaches, knowing that there are teams of individuals on campus that are on standby to help guide your student through the process, and knowing that they're going to get tripped up along the way, and that's okay. They may change their major, they may stop having communications or restricting access, but there's people on campus that are having those conversations with them and trying to explain the importance of the why behind it. And I think that's really important to share.
I'd also add, if your student is not sure of their major, they picked it from a list because they felt pressure to pick it from a list, which a lot of our students do. A lot of them are psychology majors. You ask a student, what are you going to do with your psych degree? And they're like, don't know, had to pick it from a list, and it was general, or whatever. So a couple of things that I would just suggest if your student is interested in either kind of solidifying their decision on major, or if they're completely undecided. Our Career Development Center has a lot of inventories that can help students, and they can meet with students to really measure their knowledge, skills, and abilities. And so that can match them with potential kind of career options that then map to college majors. And so they can help guide them through the process, or at least start narrowing that down. The other thing is, I would also, I don't know if Alicia, you want to talk about the Shocker Strong program, but that is a program that can really help students identify where their strengths are, right? So if I'm not good at analytics, I probably shouldn't be a math or an engineering major, right? Or business major or data analytics major, you know, whatever. But if my passion is really talking to people and working with students, and maybe I ought to go through education, right? So do you want to talk a little bit about Shocker Strong and how that helps students kind of with these types of decisions?
Yeah. And so Shocker Strong is an initiative program that we started a year ago that really helps really to teach students what their strengths are. And how do you apply your strengths in regards to becoming more resilient in times where things can just seem really gloomy or down? And how do you push through that? But each student who participates in Shocker Strong gets to take the Clifton Strengths. And essentially what the assessment does is it talks about how do you utilize your top 5 strengths? And with those strengths, how are you utilizing those in engaging and working with other people, aligning that in your major and the career options that you're wanting to go into? And then really, how does your communication change in working with someone who is these top 5s, and so my top 5, Kim's top 5, and Lisa's top 5 can be completely different, or we may have one that's in common. And so if we have one that's in common, how do we utilize that to help leverage us and working together to maximize our strengths? And so it's a phenomenal program. I'm really excited for us to take this online this next year, and so hopefully we'll be able to reach more students. But again, this is just another way in which students can engage. Within the Division of Student Affairs, our vision is connecting every student, and we want every single student at Wichita State to feel connected and to really feel a part of our campus community, because by being engaged and being connected, that's how we graduate them, of making them feel like this is home. And so you've heard me preach in orientation and almost everything that I do, or that we do in student affairs, is connection is so critical, and making sure that they're connected with advising, connected with support services, going back to, Gina Crabtree, and being connected with parents and having those open dialogues and conversations, because that is where the support comes when they need that extra push. And so students will be getting information. They can go to wichita.edu / Shocker Strong and get more information there. We also have Shocker Strong on social media, but they will be getting a ton of information throughout the semester from us, encouraging them to engage and get connected.
The last thing I would add is a push, because I don't think we've actually mentioned this today, but everything is going to be sent to your students' Wichita State email. And I know you heard it a lot in orientation, but I'm just going to reiterate it again. They've got to get in that habit of checking their email. And then there's a lot of, we mentioned it in orientation as well, we seem to be a Twitter campus. That seems to be the the way we connect. That's a social media platform. And I say that it's not necessarily the student's choice, but definitely has been the university's choice and the departments within the university's choice. They will always have a Twitter. They may not always have a Facebook. They may not always have an Instagram, whatever. I don't, TikTok and Snap. I can't go there. I don't know that enough, but too old for all of that. But your students aren't, and that's where they are. And we know that, but if they want the official word from the university, really, they need to check that shockers.wichita.edu email address. They cannot forward it because there is personal information that we send. So they've got to check that daily, and then follow official university accounts on social media to make sure they're really getting the right information, and not just the newest trend or question out there or whatever. So just making that plug, because we haven't talked about it yet today, and I was surprised. I don't know that anybody brought that up yet. So
no, one other piece I'm going to talk about, because I do mention it during the orientation videos for students, but there's Shocker alerts that they can sign up for as well, that are text message alerts that can come out from the university. And then one other piece, the thing that surrounds all of this, and we've talked about the method of classes in this coming semester, technology. Technology needs for students. We know that that's going to be a real thing when classes are offered in a hybrid or an online format. We know that technology is going to be needed for students. So when Kim talked about the COVID-19 news website, so wichita.edu/COVID-19 news, if you find the section there that is talking about prospective shockers, then it does have some in the academic section. There is technology needs. We've gotten some recommended technology, just equipment needs, like how much memory you need for a laptop, or, does the Chromebook work, and those types of things. We have that from our IT department here at Wichita State. We also have connection and we have some great connection for our Shocker store on campus as a resource to be able to purchase those items. And then if for any reason you are unable to purchase, we do have some other means to be able to connect your student with technology needs. So please go out there and check that website. We will be sending that information out to students as well, right? But parents, this is me to you. Go out there and check it out as well, because I'm going to send it to your students, but I want to make sure that you have the information as well.
Great. And I think one very important website that's up, available 24/7, has Lisa and her team has put a ton of time and energy into, is wichita.edu/OneStop. And so at any time, if you're wondering, how do I, when is finals? When is this? How do I do that? If your student forgets how to log in, if they forget a password, they can easily type in the search there, and they can literally answer any question, any time of day. They have staff members that are responding to inquiries around the clock, which really provides students that one-stop service for any questions that they have around campus. And if for some reason they can't answer the question, they will escalate that to the department to make sure that they get back with you. And really, our goal is to help you help your students. And so if there's something that's missing, let us know. We'll make sure we get it updated. But for the most part, that's probably a saving grace. It's saved me many of times when families have called in and asked questions. I'm like, let me check. And I really go to OneStop. And so it's a great resource. So that's kind of my hidden secret and tip for all of you, is make sure that you check it out and look, because 9 times out of 10, it's going to be listed on the OneStop website. So great job, Lisa, to you and your team. We appreciate all that you do. Any final questions or comments before we close out? We have a couple minutes before our time is up together.
I don't think so. Not my kind of parting words. I would say communicate. Understanding that sometimes students are like, don't be doing that. But then communicate what the expectations are, right? And really kind of, I know Alicia, you talk a lot about this at orientation. We're moving from, being the, I don't know how you say it, you move to the sideline in this process.
Going to coaching to the sidelines.
Yes. And it's really about strong communication with your student and supporting them in this process, letting them maybe make some decisions that, maybe you don't agree with. And so encourage them to, do a little research into why they want to make that decision. And you know what, if it's their path, it's their path. It's not your path, it's their path. And I know that's hard to hear because I know, my kids, I think I know what he should be, but that doesn't mean he wants to be it. So that's my kind of parting advice.
I think, the last thing that I would say is, we want to stay connected with you as parents. We see parents as our key partners for your student success. And so, just understanding and knowing that we are on standby to help answer questions, provide guidance, support along the way. But the best way to do that is to stay connected through our monthly newsletters. We share a lot of information with families through the newsletter. We give conversation tip starters. Hey, these are deadlines, reminders, don't forget. And so if you've not already done so, make sure that you go to wichita.edu/family and subscribe to our monthly newsletter. You'll receive that once a month, and it's just an opportunity for us to stay connected. I see another question that came in. How do you reset a PIN for proxy? We started proxy last year. Just looking.
I'd say go to OneStop, but I don't even know that answer. Let me see if I can find it.
And so Lisa is looking that up right now. And again, if there's a question regarding something like that, the OneStop website is really great. And if they can't answer it, then they will escalate that to the help desk. And so very well, maybe if you call 316-978-HELP, which is 3571, I believe.
4357 HELP 435. Oh, sorry. Did you say OneStop or Help Desk?
Help desk.
Help Desk is 4357.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
And so
I found it.
take it away.
So if you actually, the student needs to go in there and they can reset the PIN. So if they go in there, and they act like they're going to set it up again, if they go into proxy, so and you can see these instructions on the proxy website, then they just go in there and there is another little tab over here. You can see email passphrase and then reset PIN. It's just another tab option on there. So yeah,
Great.
That's exactly how you do it. That's how we roll at OneStop. I don't know. Let me check real quick. We don't always know the answers. We just know where to find them. So.
Great job. Well, I want to, we are 1 minute over time. So I just want to say thank you to Kim, Lisa, Gina had to bow out a little early. This was a great first table talk with parents. We have a couple others that are popping up later this month where we'll talk about, we have another one about advising and FERPA, but we also will talk about, Kim, help me out, girl.
Tuition, finances, housing, academic support, all in that schedule on your website and then on that postcard that probably many of you received. Yep. So if you go to the Parent Family website, you'll be able to see the topics. They should coincide with what your student is doing on their online modules as those are rolling out as well. We've tried to make that the same as much as possible. So thank you.
The benefit of joining the parent table talks is really being able to talk with the experts in those areas. Mm-hmm. And so being able to see, if I have a question, who's my go-to person? Lisa Hansen, Gina Crabtree. And so just being able to get some really good information directly from the offices. And so we look forward to connecting with you later on throughout the year. And again, welcome to the Shocker family, and we'll see you later. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.